This is one of the best technical days I've had in a long time. Let's see. About getting on Zoom, on Facebook Live. Okay. Well, let's get going. Screen. Okay. This is one of the lessons I was going to share last week, but we didn't have such a good technical situation. Okay. Let's see. Amazing. I love this. Okay. As those of you who've seen these know, this is one of the first forms, Karen Rice's Family Zoom Station. This was episode 12. And it was a time when people were homeschooling. Oh, everyone was homeschooling. And today, I think there are more people homeschooling out of that. And this one was help kids follow their interests. During the first part of this 1-hour show, I share tips and strategies that create harmony with kids. Then we open things up for Q&A and discussion. That's when we have guests. When I talk about harmony with kids, I often bring up the one rule. In any situation where there are differences that might lead to conflict between you and your kids, you use the one rule. You find agreement. It is the rule. The one rule equals agreement. Agreement equals harmony. You do not move forward until there is agreement. This is the rule. When you follow it, you find harmony. You discover what needs to shift so that everyone involved feels good about the situation. It has never failed me when I have used it. Even though I had not isolated it and named it, it was very much a part of raising my children and working with students as a Montessori teacher in our Montessori school, as well as students in public schools. Last week, I spoke about kids following their interests. I asked you to think about doing something that interests you. When we are interested, we are engaged and focused. We tend to do our best. When we are engaged and focused, our whole being is involved in what interests us. We are experiencing harmony. That is a good reason for our kids to do what they are interested in doing. That harmony is inner harmony. When kids do what really interests them, they become peaceful, harmonious people, even if they were not before. I have witnessed this. Today, I intend to share some of the ways the One Rule can help you help your kids follow their interests. We'll start with 2-year-olds. They are very active and passionately want to do what interests them. The one important thing to keep in mind about 2-year-olds is that they are developing their willpower, the power to want, the power to be determined, the power to persevere. With your 2-year-olds, your role in using the One Rule is primarily to be a harmonious example to them. For example, let's say they have chosen to do something that you do not want them to do. This could be a conflict in the making, especially with a 2-year-old. To use the One Rule and keep harmony, help them want something you agree with before they become determined. Once they have become determined and are practicing being determined, exercising and developing that aspect of their willpower. If you want harmony and they have become determined, demonstrate harmony by figuring out how you can agree with what they want. Trust that they are in a point of harmony and figure out how you can adjust yourself to be harmonious with the direction they're going. Maybe you think, this is proof that I need to pay better attention to what is going on. I could have changed their focus if I'd been paying attention. Or maybe you can still change their focus. Just remember that agreement is harmony. Maybe you can whisk them up and quickly engage them in something else, something you like and they like. Just remember that agreement, harmony, is the goal. So whatever you decide to do, make sure they agree. Keep the harmony. It's so much better for everyone. It feels better. It takes less time. Think how much time and energy it takes to force them to do what you want. Agree, and none of that trauma and trouble happens. I need some water. You know your 2-year-old has been watching other family members doing various activities. Now they want to do one of those activities too. You can let them figure it out on their own, or if you prefer, you can show them a way to do it that you like, that you agree with. Here's a way for them to get a drink of water. Let's say they want to be able to get their own drink of water. You want to get your own water to drink? Here's your cup. Put their cup somewhere so that they can reach it themselves. If they need to carry it in a particular way, show them. Show them how to get the water into the cup, how to stop before the water fills the cup too full. Show them what to do with the cup and any extra water after they have finished drinking. One important thing to understand about a 2-year-old and their desire to do these familiar activities is that they use these activities to develop and coordinate aspects of themselves, like their intelligence, their will, and their physical actions. They get to use their intelligence because these activities make sense to them. They understand most of what is involved. How you can help? Show them the various steps involved in doing the activity, including how to complete the activity. They get to use their willpower to want to do it, to be determined to do it, and to persevere in their efforts, hopefully until success. Remember, if you do not want them to do this activity, be sure to help them choose another activity to use to coordinate these aspects of their personality before they are determined to do that activity. This cannot be stressed enough. It is critical in creating and maintaining harmony with a 2-year-old. They obviously get to practice the movements that are involved in doing that activity. When you show them how to do it, be sure to pause briefly between every 1 or 2 movements. That way they can clearly see what actions are used and exactly how to perform them. Encourage your older kids to be self-determined, to choose what they want to do like they did when they were 2 years old. Use the one rule in your interactions with them and encourage them to use the one rule when interacting with each other. Establishing the use of the one rule with your kids and between your kids can help ease your mind as you're helping your kids follow their own interests. With your older kids, at least 3 years old, it is easier to use the one rule in your interactions with them and to encourage them to use the one rule when interacting with each other. With the 2-year-old, you had to do all of the work. With older kids, everyone involved helps it happen. When the one rule agreement is a common way of interacting, it's easier to trust their choices. You also know that if you have a problem with one of their choices, you can come to agreement. They know this too. It eases everyone's mind. Here's something you can do with any child who is past the 2-year-old stage to teach them the one rule. You can present it as a way to solve problems, or even as a game, or as a skit that you perform for the other family members. The first time you might say, "Let's play a game," or "Let's do a skit for the family," or "Let's choose something in our family that we don't like and make it into something that we do like." Have a family issue in mind that your child is familiar with, like putting toys away. But if your child comes up with an idea, go with that if possible. "I don't like milk." Okay, let's find something you and I can agree on about that. "I don't drink milk." I agree with that. "I've always thought that milk is important for growing children, but I don't like milk." Okay, we are looking for a way to agree on this, and for you to agree, you do not drink milk. Yes, I do not drink milk. Okay, you do not drink milk. I will find out what is good for you instead of milk, and I will tell you what I find out, and we can find what we do agree to. We can do this with anything we are not agreeing with now and change it to something we do agree with. One way to help them follow their interests is to help them be independent thinkers. When they come to you asking for help, encourage them to solve their problems, to figure out their solutions. I wonder what you can do about that. That's an interesting situation. I wonder how you might solve that. Remember, you are not always with them and able to use time and energy to provide a solution for them. The more they can solve their own problems, the more inner strength they develop, the more confidence. When they really want your help, of course, give it. If they ask for your opinion, you can give that also. If you think there are things they should know and understand, be sure to tell them. If you think they'd like certain experiences, be sure to offer those possibilities to them. It could make all the difference. When they need even more help, like knowing how to make some pants or use oil paints or put on a play, if you have those skills, teach them. If not, encourage them to research, to find resources to help them. That might be something you do together. You might also find someone who does have those skills, who can teach them what to do. All the tips for helping your older kids follow their interests can apply to your teens too. However, teens are a special case. They are really beginning adulthood. Soon, they might be off into the world, maybe going to college, maybe working and getting another place to live, maybe traveling. In any case, they are preparing to enter the world as adults. Here are a few things to keep in mind that could be helpful for them. The following is on the Happy Kids member site and could be helpful to any of your older kids. Overlooked fact number 3. We as adults may consider teens as children, but they are not. They are young adults. They need the opportunity to learn and develop the skills and abilities they will need as independent adults. Attitude. You realize and accept that it is important for your teenager to practice making their own decisions while they're still at home, while they still have your help to back them up when they make the inevitable mistakes. Of course, I realize I said inevitable here. That doesn't mean that that is really inevitable. Most of us do make what we consider mistakes, but it could happen that they don't. This reminds me, recently I attended a health, a wellness symposium. And there was a doctor there, and he was talking about a certain illness. And he was saying, don't think you can be cured. And that really disturbed me because I understand he was trying to be helpful. I think he was trying to be helpful. But I don't think what he said is true. I mean, even this world is filled with what people call miracles. So even, I mean, a healing definitely fits into that category. So I don't want to do that kind of thing, to put the limitations on when they don't exist really. So I don't want to be a votary of those. I know this may sound scary, but the one rule takes most of the scary out of this. That's kids making their own decisions and acting on them, learning from them. Skill, learn and practice the one rule with your teen. Overlooked fact number 4, everyone makes mistakes. Attitude, learn to think of mistakes as challenges or learning opportunities. Skill, when you or your teen makes a mistake, ask, what lesson or lessons do we need to learn so we don't have to go through this again? Overlooked fact number 5, you must show respect first. I know that this seems backwards, to give respect to your teen when they are not giving respect to you, but it is not. It is easiest and most powerful to do this through using the one rule. Parents serve as models of appropriate behavior for their kids. Remember, we are always examples to the children around us, and at some point, they may try out our behavior. Realize that children observe such behavior at close range. Whatever rights and privileges adults take, children naturally feel entitled to take also, from a very young age. We are their model of appropriate human behavior, and in their minds, they're definitely human, and thus deserve, expect, and require all human rights. From this quote is from Parenting for the New Millennium, Creating Friendly Families Through the Power of Respect by Karen Ryce. That's me. That was my first book. And it's still available. Actually, you can get it online even on my old website, which is happykidsco.com. My new website is happykidsco.org. That's where you can get most things. But the book is it's not on the new website yet. I have to do that. But you can get it on the old website, which is the happykidsco.com. Okay, attitude. This goes with overlooked fact number 5. You're willing to be a model of respectful behavior toward your teenager by using the one rule. Skill. You use the one rule with your teen and you tell them that you're going to do this. Okay, cool. Now we will go on to the next one that I was going to share last week, but we didn't get to. Okay, wow, this is so beautiful. For 5.5 years, I taught in a middle school in Los Angeles and in East Los Angeles. And my students were considered special needs kids, autistic and moderately mentally challenged. So I learned a lot from them. Okay, we're gonna skip. the beginning because we did that already. When I was asked to speak on special needs kids and the One Rule, I knew I'd have to share from my own experience. Most of my learning has been from my students. As I've mentioned, I did not know about the One Rule then. It is a recent development. It came to me about 2 years ago. Even though I did not know about the One Rule, I did not believe in or practice forcing kids to do what they did not want to do. I found harmonious ways to interact, and that helped me and the students that came my way. My primary contact with special needs students was during the 5.5 years I was a middle school teacher in East Los Angeles. This middle school wanted to add a class for autistic students, and I was hired as the teacher. This was my first venture into public schools, except, of course, as a student. I had not studied autism. I knew almost nothing about it. There was something fascinating to me about it, but I'm not sure why. Once I was hired, I did do some reading and studying, but I still primarily relied on myself and my students for our educational direction. I was glad I had done that when I attended a seminar on autism, and the keynote speaker, a leading authority on autism and education, said that they were throwing away all that they thought they had learned about autism and starting fresh, taking their cues from the students. By this time, I was firmly committed to being respectful to kids. This means that agreements were very much a part of how I interacted with students. Because of my Montessori background, I was skilled at individualizing each student's educational program. I had developed my abilities as an observer, and I'm skilled at assessing students through observation. In other words, I was able to help my students follow their interests and build on their skills. In Montessori, there was a curriculum. I helped students go through it according to their interests. In the public school, there was a curriculum, though I did not find out about it until several months into the semester. So I really followed my students' interests. I also had 2 assistants who worked in the public school system for some time, and I took cues from them. Each student had an individual educational plan. When I created these, I based them on my observational assessment of their skill levels according to what they were required to be learning, the core curriculum. This plan, plus their interests, guided daily lessons. One of my first autistic students loved Pokemon. Together, we made a chart of all Pokemon characters, including a drawing of each character with the name written below. He also made each character out of clay, so he did writing, reading, drawing, and sculpting on a topic that fascinated him. One thing I developed with my first students and continued later when more students were added to my class was an economic system, including getting paid class money for the work they did. I purchased play money. It would have been better in terms of their learning to have used real money, but I didn't think of this at the time. They were paid weekly and then could shop in the class store. They loved this. The severely autistic students who were my first students and the autistic students and moderately mentally challenged students who joined my class a couple of years later all enjoyed everything about this. Several of my students who could not read or could only read minimally wanted textbooks. I assigned them the textbooks they wanted. I did not want to discourage them. I did not know what they meant in their lives. If having those books was important to them, I was going to help that happen. This is part of following their interests and certainly using the one rule. One student was able to read at grade level, and his mother wanted him to attend regular classes. I asked him if he wanted to. He shook his head no, slightly. So I talked his mother into allowing him to continue in my class. As I worked with him, I was able to pinpoint the area where he was academically lacking. It was understanding. He could read the words, but did not necessarily understand the meaning. Once he understood this, he fixed it on his own. Several years later, I received an email from him. He reported that he was in high school and attending all regular classes. He said he was doing well. One of my mentally challenged students was hurting other students. I had to spend much of my time with him to prevent this from happening. He was also often talking about how he was going to join a gang. I was able to get an assistant assigned to him. Her primary job was to stay with him and care about him, and she did. Her next task was to help him pause before reacting. She also suggested ways that he could get what he wanted without hurting anyone. When he took a music class as an elective, we discovered that he was an amazing drummer. All of these efforts resulted in him becoming happy and showing the sweetness of his nature. He stopped hurting the other students and actually would help them. He also told us that he was not going to join a gang. One thing I learned about autistic students is their tendency to be very clear about what is okay with them and what is not. I did not assume that I knew more about them than they did, so we got along well. Only once in those 5.5 years did I have any conflict with any of my students. He was one of my autistic students. He was used to being first into the classroom. He was always the first one at the door. This day, he was not there when I arrived to open the door. He came running up and took his place at the head of the line. That's where he was used to being and expected to be. I told him that this other student was at the head of the line and he should go to the end of the line. He did not, and when I opened the door, he pushed his way past me. If I'd known about the one rule, then before I opened the door, I would have asked the other students who were in line if they agreed that he could go in first. Chances are they would have agreed. They were a cooperative group. And usually he was already waiting to be the first in. It mattered to him, and it's very likely that it didn't matter to them. If I had known about the one rule, harmony would have been my goal. I've never worked with younger special needs kids, so the only thing I can share about them is that I would do my best to find harmony with them too. No matter what, I would make agreement the foundation of working with them. I've been thinking that it might be more like working with 2-year-olds, where I have to do most of the work of finding harmony with them. I'd start with the thought that they're already in harmony, as 2-year-olds are. Then I'd quickly decide whether or not I agree with what is going on. If I do, no problem. If I do not, then I do my best to change what they are doing in a way they agree with. I just remembered an even earlier connection with special needs kids. It came briefly from my Montessori training. Dr. Maria Montessori was the first female doctor in Italy. She specialized in pediatrics and psychiatry. She was appointed the director of the new orthophrenic school attached to the University of Rome, where she worked with developmentally disabled children. This was the beginning of the development of the Montessori method. When I first remembered, I was thinking I should have used more Montessori materials with my students, and perhaps that would have been even better. Perhaps, but I think that helping my students follow their interests and believe in their choices was also valuable. Now I have a name and method for doing this, something you can rely on, following the one rule. Okay, cool. Now, I am going to, this is what I did last week. This was the order that I know. I started with this, and that's all that I was allowed to do. But today I'll finish with it. Well, I don't know, finish. We'll see. Depends on the timing. Okay, let's see. I just love how this is working. Okay, this one is keeping the peace. I'm gonna go through these. Today we're going to look at keeping the peace. We already know that using the one rule is an excellent way to keep peace between people. Now we are primarily going to look at ways to create and maintain inner peace for you and any kids in your life. These days, I begin my day with thinking of 3 things I'm glad about. I don't do this now, anyway. You could do this for yourself and with kids, even in a classroom. If you're doing this with others, like your kids or in a classroom, you can all share them if you wish. It also helps to smile while doing this exercise. I learned this from several, this thing about smiling can be real helpful in feeling good. Then I think about 3 things I'm looking forward to, and then 3 things I'm willing to do to make today even better. I call this the 3 by 3 by 3. It might be enough to just think of 3 things you're glad about. I've meditated for about 50 years. Often, I did not achieve what I now call inner harmony, inner peace, or even bliss, but I meditated anyway for the sense of calm I got as a way of getting answers and for the inner adventures. Even though I was initiated into a couple of different forms of meditation that did not focus on the breath, from very early on, I found myself connecting to awareness of my breath. At the time, I did not know it was an official thing. At one point, I decided to learn to silence my mind, which I did. I did not know how critically important that is until recently, meaning during the past couple of years. During the past few years, I came across a form of meditation that has quieting your mind as its primary focus. Using this, I was able to get into a state of inner harmony, peace, and even bliss every time I meditated. It was so exciting. Then I decided to share my meditations live on Facebook. During this time, I also shared the 3x3x3 and another practice I do after that. When I started to add another practice to this, I stopped sharing live. I was going to form a Facebook group or do a challenge. Those are both still possibilities. Yeah, since I did this last week, I've been thinking that for members, and I'm going to have several layers of membership. There's going to be, which I've started setting up, it's pretty much set up already, but the first or one level of membership is basic membership, and there's the discounted version of it. It's the same as the plain basic one. It's just that there's a discount if a discounted price, $1.99 a month. If somebody wants to take advantage of that, it will be available, or the full price of $10 a month will be available also if somebody would prefer to do that, which would be good for me. Then there's the basic plus level of membership, which is going to include a Facebook group. And then there is the star level of membership, which is going to include everything in the basic plus, in addition to calls, Zoom calls. And so it'll have the Facebook group and the Zoom calls, as well as access to 111 ebooks, videos, trainings, basically access to all my work. And then there is the, the word that came to mind is premium. And this will include everything in the star level plus coaching. So we'll work together one-on-one, So that should be set up pretty soon. And once a month, there will be, if not more, there will be something added to this for all the levels. And it might be a challenge. That's what I think I might start with a challenge for the launch time. But it could be an ebook, a video, a new training, something. So let's go on here. I need to get some water first. Anyway, I discovered that I was able to get into an even more powerful state of inner harmony, doing the practices and not quieting my mind. It was puzzling. How could that be? Okay, I'm going to say something here because I think that what happens is the practice is kind of like using a mantra. And I think it's like harnessing the mind, focusing it. And that's why this can happen, this more powerful state of inner harmony than just quieting my mind. So anyway, what I mean by this is that hours later, I still feel inner harmony and an inner spaciousness. I can be inwardly silent instantly. I want to share the method for silencing your mind. I no longer remember how I did it originally, but apparently this works. I recommend you do this wherever you are, just as long as you can sit comfortably and you can focus only on what you're doing for 15 to 20 minutes. I used to meditate with my babies and toddlers around me on the bed. I think that's one reason I can get into inner harmony in just about any situation. That's why I recommend you starting wherever you are. Of course, if you prefer to be alone, do that. Sit comfortably with your spine straight. Find something you can focus on, like the sensation of your breath going in and out of your nostrils. My breath in my lungs was what naturally drew my attention. Then keep your attention on that. When you start to think, pull your attention back to your focus. Do this for 15 to 20 minutes daily. Best if you can do it first thing in the morning. It was also suggested that you can focus on the sound of an air conditioner, a dripping faucet, an app with a constant sound. Even focus on the flame of a candle. At some point, you'll notice that your mind is quiet. Keep your focus. This is the state where I feel inner harmony, peace, and even bliss. I might also receive answers to questions I asked at an earlier time or other guidance and inspiration after the silence. That's when I trust the answers and the inspiration I receive after the silence. When you can, of course, share this approach with kids. In our elementary school, the school day started with meditation. The kids liked it. However, the goal of inner harmony might be achieved in other ways too when it comes to children. I think when it comes to adults too. I don't know if I say that, but in the Montessori school, I think that focusing on an activity that satisfied the child at the moment had the same effect. In Montessori, what happened was called normalizing the child. Once a child had connected with a compelling, satisfying activity, they became different people. It seemed to make them the best versions of themselves, kind, helpful, focused, happy. This is one reason it is so important for kids to follow their interests. If interest is not engaged, there is some degree of resistance, which is the opposite of engagement. It is only in their interests that they discover normalizing activities, become fulfilled, and find that state of inner harmony. It is also important to have a practice that can help you get back to a state of inner harmony during your day. Like I have my pattern interrupt. I have a phrase or word that I can repeat in my mind when I notice that I'm not feeling inner harmony. It brings me back to that state, or at least to a better feeling state. It interrupts the negative thought pattern I have started and gets me focused on something I like. By negative, I mean that I'm thinking thoughts that I do not want to happen. At some point, I realize that I'm feeling better. I'm thinking better thoughts, and I've stopped thinking my pattern interrupt. To create your own pattern interrupt, come up with a phrase or word or mantra that you like or feel drawn to. Whenever you feel like it, repeat it in your mind. This is just to create it as a practice. So when you need it, it is already something you are used to. When you notice that you're not in a good mood, or you realize that you're thinking thoughts about what you do not want, these usually happen together. Start repeating your pattern interrupt in your mind. Keep it up until you're feeling good again. Or maybe you'll discover, as I do, that you're not repeating your pattern interrupt and you are feeling better and thinking positive thoughts again. Or maybe just being aware of what you appreciate. Here is a practice that was very helpful with kids in our elementary school. Something like this could help at home too. When a child was having a hard time, either just feeling bad or causing trouble for others, they were invited to be in the center of a circle. Each person in the circle would say something they liked about the child in the center. This made all of the kids feel better. If you haven't done this already, now is a good time to eliminate punishment. Our goal is to keep the peace. Besides, punishment is totally unnecessary. Once I decided never to force my kids to do anything they did not want to do, we all got along better than ever. Besides, you have the one rule. You can find agreements about anything. Now, the important thing is to choose a place to start or expand your practices. If you want to feel happier, you might start with thinking of 3 things you're glad about. You might do this with your kids. If you haven't quieted your mind, you can start by quieting your mind. If you can quiet it, but not whenever you wish, you can start there. If you have not introduced following their interests to your kids, you can start there with them. You might also start with sitting to quiet their minds if they want to. Be sure to explain the benefits briefly. I've just learned something that relates to what I've shared. I tried it and it seems to work. It feels more powerful, so I'm going to share it here. After each thing you're glad about, add the word because, and then the reason you're glad about that. It is supposed to increase the positive effect in your life. Wow. Okay. This is interesting. We made it through all of them. So let's see about this. I'm going to show you how I've set up. Okay. The membership. Oh, I just thought of something else I can share with you. We have very few minutes. I'm going to take this time while it's booting itself up here to wish you a great week and hope that things work well for you using the one rule. Okay, here's the setup for the basic discounted Happy Kids membership that I mentioned to you, $1.99 a month. Oh dear, I have to fix that. So if you wanted to get that, you would click here. Okay. Then I haven't finished setting it all up, but let me show you. Down here, this is if you want to coach with me, just plain coach, but coaching for finding solutions, peaceful, harmonious solutions. Okay, this is, here's one way that you can join the star. Here's to be an affiliate, but most pages have it at the bottom. Here's another way for joining the star. These were programs I had set up, but it's going to work well, I think, to have members. This one, Harmonious Fathers, Mom Starts Strong, Harmonious You, Harmonious Educators, and each one has a VIP, which is going to be the version of it, which is going to be a way to get to the premium where you get coaching with me. And this is if you want to get certified as a guardian of harmony. There are several levels of that. The basic one is to share the one rule. And here is the one-on-one where you can join me in the cave of the heart. This is where we work together on inner harmony. Okay. Uh-oh. I'm going to stop the screen share with that. And I wish you a great week, all of you. And see you next week. Okay. And Facebook.